In this video, I am going to be going over the best loadouts for each of the classes in the final Season 4, and therefore I'm also going to be going through what the meta is currently in-game. So we're going to start off with Light, and we're going to work our way up to the Heavy. For the Light, you probably want Evasive Dash on. This is just going to be the best specialization. Grappling Hook simply isn't that good, and Cloaking Device falls short in a lot of different scenarios, and you also do just have the Vanishing Bomb, which basically just gives you access to this, but in the form of a gadget instead of a specialization. So generally, for most players, if you want to play meta, you want to have the Evasive Dash on. For the weapon, XP54, M26 Matter, M11, all of these are fairly solid and not too difficult to use. If you want something that's more punishing but also very, very good, then the SH1900, the SR84, and the LH1 are all going to be very, very good picks as well. 9PR and V9S just don't really have a place in the game right now. There's just lots of things that just overshadow them. The bow is okay, but it is a projectile, so it is just pretty unreliable, is what I would say. The sword is also very solid. You can use this if you want, but it is melee, so it does kind of limit you in that sense. But if you've got a good team that can kind of make up for you using the sword, then this can definitely dish out lots of damage as well. The dagger is really tough to be good with, and the throwing knife, because it's projectile, is just pretty unreliable. It's not going to be good at those longer ranges. So, what you want to have on if you're like a decent player with average aim, you want to have the XP54, the M11, or the M26 Matter. If you're a good player with very good aim, you can also go with any of those three, but you kind of also allow yourself to use the SH1900, the Sniper, or the LH1. If you're using any of these as a good player, you're going to have a good time. For the gadgets, the stun gun is still very, very good. It slows someone down, so if you don't have the best aim, this can really help with like just being able to hit the opponent. And if you do have good aim, it's still just going to make it easier for you to land more headshots when someone's slowed down while they're using this. It does also just kind of take them out of the fight for a couple of seconds. You know, if there's a full team of 3 running through a hallway and you stun one, it just like halts them and makes them kind of slow down for a second rather, so your 3 teammates can just take one out, and then suddenly a 3v3 is a 3v2. This is still very, very, very powerful, and every Light should probably just have this on. It's very, very good. Then the other 2 things are kind of up to you. I know a lot of people like different things, so whatever you want to put on the 3rd and 4th slots are completely up to you. I like frags and sonar. Sonars are very, 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 very good for recon. The Light really doesn't have a whole lot they can offer to their team. The sonar grenade is pretty much the only thing that they can offer to their team. They can tell their team where the opponents are with this thing, so this is definitely super duper useful on pretty much every map. Except Kyoto. Well, no, on pretty much every map. In some places on all of the maps, this is going to be very, very good. And on a map like Monaco or Seoul, this is just always going to be good in like pretty much every single fight. So sonar grenades are definitely very good. Gateways got nerfed this season. I don't think projectiles can travel through them anymore, so I don't think you can throw like grenades through them or anything like that. So they did get nerfed, but they are still solid if you want to put it on. And then it's just up to you, really. I would probably stick sonar grenades on, though. They're very, very useful, but it is totally acceptable to also go with, like, Vanishing Bomb and Thermal Bore, or maybe you want to have on, like, a Gateway and then some Pyro Nades, or maybe Glitch Grenades as well. All of these are pretty okay. What I would stay away from is the Tracking Dart, because the sonar grenades are just better. I would stay away from the Thermal Vision, because it's not that good. And I would stay away from the smoke grenades because those are also not so good. Glitch, flashbang, frag, gas, goo, pyro, all of that stuff is pretty okay, and you can put that on the 3rd and 4th slots. It's just up to whatever you prefer, really. It is worth noting that the Light is still not a good class. It's still just not as good as the medium or heavy. It's too squishy, and it doesn't really deal enough damage. Like the Heavy's Deagles, for example, deal out crazy amounts of damage. The medium's AKM, the medium's Model 1887, the medium's CL40, they all do crazy amounts of damage. The medium has heals, defib, and also 100 more health. So the Light just kind of sucks. It's sucked for a long time, and that's not going to be any different this season. They are a little bit better this season, I would say, because the Heavy is a little bit worse, so there's kind of been some balancing there. Like the Light's probably like come up a few points, and the Heavy's probably like come down a few points, but for that reason, the Light's it's just still not going to be that good. It is the most fun class by far. It's fun, it's cool to get those, you know, snipes while you're soaring through the air after you evasive dash to dodge an RPG. That's fun, but the Light, unfortunately, just still isn't going to be the best class ever. So it's definitely not going to be meta, but if you are playing Light, then this is just a rundown of the meta loadouts for the light class specifically, if that makes sense. Now, where the true meta lies this season, I believe is going to be in the medium. You want the healing beam. Dematerializer is cool, you can make some nice plays with it. Turret just isn't that good. It can be like a slight distraction sometimes, but it's just not going to be that good. What you want, if you want the meta, which is what this video is for, is the healing beam. The ability to instantly heal your teammates is very powerful. I know the healing beam got nerfed, it heals people a lot slower now, but healing people slowly is still better than having to wait like 5 seconds for health regeneration, because that could really be very bad in a lot of situations. You want the healing beam on, it's very, very powerful. Similarly, you want the defib on. If you're playing medium, I don't care what mode it is, even if it's power shift. If you're playing medium, just put the defibrillator on. It's just going to be beneficial for you and to all of your teammates. It's going to be good for everyone. It's going to make everyone alive and happy. It's very good. Just put it on. It's a very, very, very powerful gadget, and it pairs super well with the healing beam as well. So when you defib someone, they spawn like half health, and then you can just heal them back to full, and then they're back in the fight. And that takes really not as long as it does to just res them normally. So you really do just want to pair the defib and the healing beam together, and that's a very, very powerful combination. So then for the weapon, you've got a couple options here. AKM, the AKM with this sight is very accurate. At this sight makes it so much easier to aim this thing, this compact reflector. So if you bop this sight onto the AKM, you don't have to. You might prefer this gun without the sight. It's fine. It makes like the gun still functions exactly the same. But at least for me, when I've got the sight on, it makes it so much easier to aim. And then it really just does make the AKM into a killing machine if you can aim the recoil, or if you can get that recoil smoothing. If you can aim this gun, it kills people real quick. So this is one of the options you can choose from. The AKM is very, very, very solid. You can also go with the Model 1887. Model 1887 is very powerful. 2 shots lights and mediums, 3 shots heavies. It's got a pretty fast fire rate. The only bad thing about it is, of course, its kind of reload. Its reload speed is a bit wonky, we'll say, but it's a very, 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 very powerful weapon, and it's got pretty decent range on it as well for a shotgun. So this is very powerful. And you can delete people real quick with this thing if you can aim it. It's not super difficult to aim, but you do want to make sure you're pretty precise with your aim to use this thing effectively. If you don't have the best aim, you probably want to go with the AKM, but if you've got like decent aim, you can probably make this thing work. It's not that high of a skill ceiling. You can hit shots pretty consistently with this thing if you just keep your reticle in the center of the enemy. So this is very, very, very powerful. So you can go with the AKM or this, or you can go with the CL40. With the CL40 buff this season, it now takes 3 shots to kill lights, mediums, and heavies. Well, you can kill everything in 3 shots or less, I'll say. So this is very powerful now. The reload speed, again, is a bit wonky because you've got such a small mag size. The reload speed takes a while, but if you are hitting your shots, you can get like a full team wipe with 3 shots if they're all together. So this is very, very, very powerful, and it can be super annoying to play against as well. So for the weapon, you want the AKM, the CL40, or the Model 1887. Those are what you're going to have the best time with. The FAMAS is fine, but it's not as good as the AKM. That's going to be the same for the FCAR. They're both just more awkward to use, and the FCAR is just simply a worse weapon. The Pike 556 is good, but it's pretty hard to aim whenever there's like a semi-auto weapon, and whenever there's like lots of visual recoil, which there is, just makes it very hard to use for most people. And that's going to be the same for the revolver. So both of these are good. They're decent weapons, but they're pretty hard to use effectively in like a high level game. So I think generally for most people, you probably just want to stay away from these and use something else, like the AKM, which is just much easier to use for most people. But if you can use them, fine, you can go with them. But the AKM, the CL40, or the Model 1887, you're probably just going to have a better time using those, and they're probably just going to be better for most of the people watching this video. So that is what I would stick to. I would stick to the AKM, the CL40, or the Model 1887. Then, for the gadgets, you probably want either zipline or jump pad on. Having some type of mobility is very good, both to like get up to your teammates' totem so that you can defib them pretty quickly, and just for you know, regularly traversing the map, or like getting away from fights or getting into fights quickly after a team wipe, so you can third party quickly before they get their, you know, stuff on cooldown, before they can res their teammates. There's lots of reasons you want to have mobility. So you either want to have the zipline or the jump pad on. Both of these are going to pair with different things better, and it's just kind of preference, whatever you want. So I like having zipline, but if you're using something like the CL40, you probably want the jump pad so you can quickly like get above someone and then shoot down on top of them, which makes aiming a lot easier. So it's really just preference, and it really just comes down to kind of whatever you want to use. But I just personally prefer having the zipline. But you probably should have one of them on, just so that you do have ability. And then the second slot is pretty much up to you. I like having frag nades. You can go with glitch traps, flashbangs, gas nades, goo nades, pyro nades. You can go with explosive mines, gas mines. I would stay away from the data reshaper, and the APS turret is only good if you have like a trio stacking team. And let's say it's like 2 heavies with flamethrowers, and they're all going to be wanting a close range fight. So they're all kind of sticking together in a very small area defending a cash out. That's when you want the APS turret. This might be a good thing to have on your reserve, but I think most of the time it's just not going to be that good because it doesn't have much health. And if someone throws like 3 frags in, or if someone's got like a CL40 and they just shoot 3 bullets in, then it's going to go away. So this really isn't that fantastic. It can be good in very specific situations. And then other times it's just, in most situations, it's just not going to really do a whole lot. Because most of the time I'm going to be shooting you with my AKM or my flamethrower or my Model 1887 instead of, you know, throwing grenades inside the area. So, and I can also just destroy it anyway. So I would go with pretty much anything except the data reshaper and the APS turret here. Obviously explosive mines got nerfed, so maybe you don't want those, but it's really just preference. I would just stay away from the data reshaper and the APS turret. Everything else you can probably just get away with using, and it's basically just going to be preference. But I like having frags just so I can lob a couple of those in to the fight and just have a little bit of offensive play, as well as kind of being like the support class. So I definitely think that the medium is going to be the meta this season, but I'll talk more on that a little bit later. Then we have the heavy. Obviously, the mesh shield kind of got killed this season with its nerfs. It's just not going to be a very good specialization anymore. Goo gun still good, winch claw still good, and charge and slam still good. Really just up to you whichever one you want to use, and it's also going to come down to whatever weapon you're using and your play style. So if you're the type of person that likes putting the cash out in first and then just fortifying that area as much as possible, you probably want like goo gun and barricades and dome shield and just play like full fortification. Or you could go like winch claw and then like sledgehammer and then anti-gravity cube to move the cash out wherever you want it to be to give yourself an advantage. So it's really just going to come down to your actual loadout and what you want to pair certain things with. There's a lot of choice here in what you can pick, but all of these can function very well at high levels. I just like having charge and slam on. I like having the movement buff, and I like being able to get that burst damage there, but it really is just preference. Then for the weapon, flamethrower, still good. Lewis gun and M60, if you can aim them, if you can get over the visual recoil and the recoil patterns, if you can control it, and if you can hit your shots, then both of these things are going to be okay. They do feel like pea shooters, but if you can hit your shots, they are going to be okay. .50 akimbo, very hard to use, but if you can hit your shots, these do just elite people. This is basically the heaviest version of the LH1. Very hard to aim, very hard to make worthwhile, but if you can hit your shots consistently, these are very, very scary to go up against. That's going to be pretty much the same for the KS-23. That's going to be a little bit more unreliable, though, because it is a projectile weapon, so do be aware of that. The SA-1216 is going to be a close-range weapon. If you're very confident in your aim and you don't want to use the flamethrower, but you do want to be a close-range fighter, then the SA-1216 is probably going to be for you. It still does crazy amounts of damage if you can consistently hit your shots, but that is difficult to do. Then we have the spear. This just isn't good. Don't use it. And then we have the sledgehammer, which can be good if you pair it with the right stuff. So you can use like sledgehammer plus winch claw, pull people towards you, and then just take them out with a heavy, with a charge attack. And that's probably going to go quite well for you. So there's a lot of option here. MGL32 is also decent as well. You can use that if you want. It's in a pretty weird spot. Like sometimes it can be great and sometimes it's just not going to be that good at all. It is projectile, so I would say it's very unreliable. You kind of have to hope that the situation is right. This is going to be very good in like some areas of some maps and very, very bad in other areas of other maps. Like if it's the suspended structures on, you know, Monaco, or if it's like suspended structures on Kyoto, or up, down, left, right on Skyway, it's just not going to be very good. So maybe it's good to keep in your reserve and switch out if you've got the right map for it. But most of the time, it's going to be a pretty unreliable weapon that's not going to, you know, be the best for you, especially if someone's, you know, spraying you with an AKM or someone's beaming you with a Model 1887. This probably isn't what you want to have on. So you can go with it, but it's not going to be great in a lot of situations. So Lewis Gun M60, Akimbo, Deagles, Flamethrower, SA-1216, and the Sledgehammer are all okay weapons, is what I would say there. Yeah, I'll leave that at that. And obviously, you know, if you've got Flamethrower, you can pair this with the Goo Gun to get people stuck and then burn them. You can also pair the Goo Gun with the Sledgehammer to get people stuck and then hit them. You can pair the Sledgehammer with the Winch Claw to pull them towards you and then hit them. There's lots of different combos you can do with some of these specializations, so do be aware of that. As for the weapons, the gadgets. The Dome Shield is still good. It's not really a requirement though. The Dome Shield used to be very, very, very good, but now that it only lasts, I think it's 6 seconds or 7 seconds, it's good, but it's just like you can very easily switch this off with something else and still have a good game. So, it's kind of up to you if you want to have that on or not. Barricades, I really like barricades. I think they're very, very good for fortifying defenses, and I really like that heavies can't go through vents. Heavies can't go through vents, so I like barricading off the vents so that it's like, if I can't use it, then no one can use it. And that just kind of makes areas a little bit easier to defend sometimes. And it's also very, very good for mobility as well. So if you place a barricade, you can climb it, and then you can get like up to a level that you usually can't get up from if you just try and do a regular jump. So this saves a lot of time. If like the roof is cracked, but you can't get up there, you can barricade, climb on top of it, and then jump up to get to where you need to get to. And that can be very helpful. So I actually like these for mobility, but I also like them for fortifying defenses. So I find these very, very, very useful. And the other 2 slots are still up to you. RPG is still very good, but it's just considerably worse than it used to be. A 40 damage nerf is a hefty nerf. So, you know, if you just want pure damage, then you can probably go for the frag grenade, but some people like that the RPG comes out quick and it goes where you're aiming, so it shoots very, very precisely compared to the frag grenades, let's say, because the frag grenades kind of have like a timer on it, right? So it's not going to blow up when you want it to blow up sometimes. So you can go with the RPG, you can go with frags, flashbangs, C4, gas, goo, pyro, explosive mine, pyro mine. All of those are going to be just fine. I kind of stay away from the proximity sensor and the anti-gravity cube. I don't think either of them are going to be the best. Proximity sensor is pretty easy to destroy. I guess it can be good, but I just feel like for the heavy, which has access to so many damaging things like C4 or pyronades, I just feel like proximity sensor is just not a fantastic thing to have on. You can have it on, it's not like it sucks, I just don't think that it's all that good. The anti-gravity cube, if you're pairing it with the right stuff, then you can make this thing worthwhile. So it really is just up to you, whatever you want to put here. I personally would just keep on barricades because I really like the mobility and I like the fortification, and I probably would recommend keeping that on. But all 3 of these slots here it's just pretty much up to you what you want to have on. I do find Dome and Barricade still useful, and I just still like the RPG, but it's totally okay here to go with like frags and then gas and then also goo, and just go with like crazy amounts of, you know, grenades you can throw, or like even frag, gas, and then like pyro. You know, frag one area, gas another, and then pyro another. You've blocked off 2 entrances or exits, one with gas, one with pyro, and then you were like throwing the frags wherever the people are kind of stuck at now because they can't go through either of the doors or something. It's kind of just up to you, whatever you want to put on for the heavy, but this is just generally what I like. So now we're going to talk about why I think medium is the meta. Now that we've gone through kind of the meta loadouts for each of the different classes, we're going to talk about why I think the medium is the meta. I think that the medium is going to be the meta class this season, because now that the heavy has received the nerf to the RPG has been nerfed by 40 damage, and it's got a longer reload time as well. Now that that's happened, it's significantly easier to kill a heavy after you've been RPG'd. So before, if you got RPG'd by a heavy and they started shooting you with a flamethrower, you're probably just dead. You're probably just gonna die. But now, if a heavy RPGs you and then starts shooting you with a flamethrower, you can generally just kill them. You can generally and consistently just take them out with a Model 1887 before you die, or you can just take them out with a CL40 if you die, before you die, rather. So you can just take the heavy out a lot of the time, even after they've RPG'd you and started shooting you with a flamethrower, because the fire rate on both of these things are so fast, and because they do so much damage so quickly, if you've got, like, decent aim, you can just take them out and just make it so that the RPG plus the flamethrower at close range just isn't going to kill you in time, because the flamethrower takes a long time to kill people. And the Model 1887 and the CL40 just don't. So these can like out DPS the flamethrower plus the RPG, and you can take out the heavy before they take out you. Before they take you out, rather. So both of these can like out damage a lot of the heavy's weapons, like the M60 or the Lewis gun, just because they're harder to control. So it's going to be easier to hit shots with the CL40. It's going to be easier to hit a heavy 3 times the CL40 than it is for the heavy to hit you like 16 times with a Lewis gun, if that makes sense. I don't know how many bullets it actually is, but probably something like that. So yeah, and then on top of having lots and lots of damage potential now, the medium also has the healing beam and the defib. So they've got crazy amounts of support potential with the healing beam, with the defib, and with whatever movement option you put on. And then you also have very, very good amounts of damage potential with whatever weapon you put on, that being the AKM, the model, or the CL40. So the medium now does very good amounts of damage, and also very good amounts of heals, while the heavy is just tanky. You know, they don't really do crazy amounts of damage anymore unless you've got very, very good aim with something like the Akimbo. But I think medium is just going to be easier to use this season, and I think it's going to be able to offer more to your teammates, because before the heavy could just kind of 1v3 teams sometimes. If everyone was clumped up in one area, if you RPG'd them and then started shooting them with the flamethrower, that was just going to be a team wipe for you. But now, if you've got 3 mediums looking at you, they're just going to take you out very, very quickly with whatever weapon they are using. So the medium this season, I think, is shaping up to be pretty powerful. The heavy's RPG nerf is pretty significant because everything kind of relied on the RPG. Like, the RPG did very, very good burst damage, and then the heavy has a lot of weapons that do pretty good damage over time, like the flamethrower, like the Lewis gun, like the M60. So the RPG was doing like a lot of the heavy lifting, and now that's not really the case anymore. It can't really lift as much as it was lifting before. So I think the overall kind of potential of how quickly a heavy can kill you has gone significantly down for most players, and I think for most players the medium is now going to be the class that is easiest to make the most out of. Because it has the healing beam, the defib, it's got the movement, and then whatever else you want here, probably something offensive, and then it also has very, very good weapons that can take you out pretty quickly if you've both got like okay aim or if you've got decent aim. So the okay aim is the CL40, decent aim is the Model 1887 or the AKM. But yeah, so I think the meta for the medium, just to quickly recap everything, is going to be something like this. And instead of the AKM, you can switch this to the model or to the CL40. For the heavy, pretty much whatever specialization you want except the mesh shield. Whatever weapon you want, really, except for the spear or the MGL32, I would say. Gadgets are completely up to you. The heavy is pretty flexible this season. And then for the light, you probably want evasive dash on. You got a couple different weapons to choose from. You got the sniper, you got the XP, the M11, the M26, and the LH1, along with the SH1900. For the gadgets, you probably want the stun gun, you probably want the sonar nades, and then your fourth thought is just kind of up to you. And I do think that the medium is going to be one of the better classes this season, but we'll have to wait and see if that is truly the case or not. So, there you go. There you have it. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to be it for this video. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Also, just to quickly mention, my Twitch and my Discord are going to be linked down in the comments below, and I'm probably live right now by the time this video is finishing, so feel free to come check me out. Farewell.